Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of the Unlaced podcast. We have been back from a 4-week break, so I have missed you all out there. What a year it was last year in 2022. This year we are going for bigger and better, of course. We are going to have weekly shows on Tuesday nights as we did towards the end of last year. To all the people that keep coming back, I love you so much. Thank you very much. And to all the new people here, please do give us a like and subscribe. It's how we grow. Let me know what guests you guys want on as well this year, because we are an open book. It's a blank canvas. We'll try to get as many on as we can as possible. Today's guest, the first one of the year, this is a podcast, actually. I came across a very deep football podcast by a couple of handsome young folks from Sydney called Born Offside. And today we have one of the hosts of it who's doing many things in the football space, Claude Fabiano, mate. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, mate. First of 2023, that's a big deal.
I know, bro.
It's a big honor, but it's great to be here, mate. Thanks for having me. Keen to get into it.
It can either only go up or down from here.
Exactly right. Let's hope it goes up from here. Let's hope.
We'll set the tone. Now, for those that don't know you, I want to go just a little bit into your background, because we can touch on a little bit, but you do quite a lot of things, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive as well for your age, because how old are you?
Man. 26.
26.
Yeah, 26.
So there's not too many TV presenters like working for Optus Sport and SBS in the country.
No, there's not. At that age, definitely not. It's kind of a new niche, really, because, you know, all these broadcasters from TV, they've realized the world's changing and they need their older heads, but they need their younger heads. They need people that can jump on social, jump on TV. So I think I came up through this new emerging niche of like a social media creator that learned to kind of sharpen up professionalism, you know, deal with a producer in my ear, deal with Q readers, all that kind of thing, and do it on TV as well. Right. And now I've got my own company. I won it yesterday. Part of what we're doing is growing more talent, that people that are creators that have a great audience already, but just need that extra sharpening professionally and want to jump in and be on TV, because why not?
Yeah, so that's the other thing as well. And it is amazing, because we'll go into it a lot more, but you obviously have is it like a production company, you would say? I won it yesterday?
Yeah, but it started off as just a production company. Now we've kind of like ventured out. So now we've got a few of our own publishers like Born Offside, which we own the IP of, but also talent is our biggest thing now, because we found out, you know, we started off thinking, it literally started with, I love football. I don't really love the way football's communicated in this country. Let's try change that. Yeah. But then we realized we actually had a passion for a lot more than just football. We had a passion for media generally. And I guess the lack of diversity in voices, in tones, in color, in gender, in all these things that you see, especially in sport. Yeah. So we're like, wow, we have a passion for this as well. Let's try change that too. So this is our newest venture that we're trying to do.
It's pretty crazy. So where did the podcast sort of idea come from? Because you guys have, I think there's 3 or 4 of you per episode. Yep. I like it because it's purely deeply about football, and you don't get too many young people in Australia pushing out content talking about like the global game as such, which I find interesting. So how did that sort of come together? What was the thinking behind that?
You know what? I met Kat Haddad. I met her through like a work meeting. We had a coffee. We were going to work together, and she was kind of trying to do this podcast when she was living in Barcelona, and her best friend was in Liverpool, and they were doing a football podcast together, and she wanted to continue it. She'd just come back home because of COVID. Right. So I was like, okay, that's really interesting. Then Olan Tech is who a lot of people know from like social media.
He's hilarious, bro.
Yeah. He's just shut up, right?
I was just saying to Braden before, my favorite stuff that he posts is when he compares like Australia to the UK.
He
just hammers one or the other.
Man, I always give it to him, because he's just like, I played football with him when he first got here, right?
Oh, really?
We played together in the NPL. We spent a bit of time together, and then he started posting all his content, and turned into, like, I always give it to him, he's turned into like a C-list celebrity where I go out with him for a drink and he's constantly stopped for photos and that constantly, man. People love him. So yeah, we decided, the 3 of us, I introduced Kat and Olan, and they hit it off straight away, and we were like, all right, let's sit down and chat football together. Like, we all have very different walks of this game. Yeah. He obviously playing overseas, and me growing up through the system here, Kat through women's football, seeing the problems there as well as everything else. And we don't mind saying what we really think. Yeah,
it's good because you guys go back and forth at each other, and that's what I love about it. It's kind of like there's some fragments there at time, but you go through all sort of topics in world football as well, which I think is good, because sometimes we just like people are interested in the A-League, but sometimes they want to hear about like the other stuff that's going on, you know?
Yeah, and you know what I always say about that, because people are like, they want us to talk more Australian football, which we always do. But I think, you know, what we lost remember when all the A-League was on Fox Sports with the Premier League, and you used to have the A-League at 7:30 go straight into the Premier League. There's this thing, when you talk about both those leagues on the same level, you're doing a service for the game. You know, when you're talking about this left winger that's playing for Melbourne, and then you compare him to a left winger that's playing for Manchester United, you don't realize what it does in people's minds, but it lifts it to the same level.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we try and do. It's not that we just want to neglect. We want to talk a bit of A-League, then talk Italy, then talk South America, because it's all the same football, rather than keep pushing our one down and putting it in its own bucket.
Okay. So were you getting these presenting gigs from sort of doing this content? Is that how you kind of got, I guess, sort of not scouted, but like, I guess, seen by some of these platforms that you would be of value to their stations or whatever?
Yeah, you know what happened? I was playing a lot of football, had a few injuries where I had to stop for 2 years, and then started creating my own content on, it was a platform called Sportly. We created a page on Instagram. We're just creating content whenever we could on the weekends, right? We created a show called Socks and Slides, and it was like similar to this. We had a guest on, any guest that I knew through the football world, I'd bring them on, we'd chat, and that got the attention of beIN Sports.
Oh, wow.
And so during COVID, they had no football. They had a lot of holes in the broadcast. They gave us a little show, and we still do it now.
So you're across like all those three, Optus, beIN, SBS.
Yeah, so I've taken myself off beIN. I'm trained up a new host there. So I roll in and out of the show occasionally, but I'm not hosting it anymore. But yeah, it's still our show as a company.
That is insane.
That was the first big one. And then from there, it just snowballed. Like the biggest thing is I always say, like, if you wait for the opportunity, it's hard. Someone might call you, give you 1 day's work, and then you don't get anything for 6 months. So you have to create your own shows so that you're practicing every day of every week.
That's
crazy. And if you're doing that, if you're doing this 3, 4, 5 times a week, eventually, like, someone's going to pick you up straight away because you're improving every day.
Yeah, there's not many people doing it either. So what's the topic around the beIN Sports show? Is it football orientated? Or?
Yeah, so that's a preview show. They've got heaps of leagues, right? So that's Italy, Germany, Championship, Scottish Prem, French League.
You've got to be across everything, man. Even as a football fanatic, man, that's not easy to do.
No, it's the biggest blessing was that beIN Sports contract. Because obviously I knew a lot of Premier League. I knew a fair bit of Serie A because I'm Italian background.
Yeah.
Things like Copa Libertadores in South America, African Nations Cup, like all this stuff that they show.
Games every day, man.
Yeah, because I was doing that every week. It just helped my knowledge. I'd walk into Optus and there'd be a player signing from Liga to the Premier League. No one knew him, and I knew all his stats and stuff because I'd been covering it. So it helps you. It helps you a lot. There's a lot of football out there. It's good to be across it all.
Do you do much research of stuff like that before you go onto those shows, or is it kind of come natural? Because I remember watching you at the would have been around the World Cup when we played Denmark, and you just reeled off a stat around Denmark. I'm like, how the fuck did you know that? Was that premeditated?
Possibly.
I don't know.
What I mean?
Because I'd think about it, you would probably have to, wouldn't you?
Yeah, like there's some stuff which is just banked up, but I've always had pretty good short-term memory. So like, that's how I got through school, like literally cramming in my study. It's not the way you should do things, but I'd cram in my study the morning of an exam. I was always really good at remembering it for about 24 hours and then it's just gone. So it helps with what I do here as well. You find yourself reading a lot more articles, a lot more stats, and probably watching less 90-minute games because you just don't have the time. So you just got to just find all the key points.
Man, it's tough, bro. That's tough. So for me, because like I probably started making content like only in the last few years, but like I absolutely love it because I caught myself just watching YouTube, like always watching sort of homemade content, even whether it was on an enterprise scale or not.
Yeah.
What was it for you that drew you to want to make content? Like what was sort of the pull?
I think, it was, I always had an underlying passion. I think growing up playing football, I didn't realize I had this passion to be creative as well. I went to a school which was quite a conservative school. We didn't have any drama or anything like that. It was an all boys school, and like drama was for girls at the time. They do now. They've implemented it now. But when I was there was no drama. There was none of those things. So like I always wanted to do that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I hosted. So with my co-host on beIN Sports, we went to school together. We hosted the talent show at school.
No way.
And that's when I was like, I used to do that every year, and I was like, I like this. I like this whole presenting thing. And then when I had to take 2 years off football, I had to replace my hip at a young age. I was like, okay, I know a lot of people in the game that would give me half an hour with them to chat. My first interview was Alex Brosk. It was for a charity. And I was really nervous, but I enjoyed the experience. I enjoyed I felt like these guys are so used to sitting in front of journalists who are grilling them.
Yeah.
That for them, it's a breath of fresh air to just sit down and talk like a human being to someone else.
Like a mate almost.
And they come to life. Like you'd see it. I've seen on your podcast, you had Matt Leckie most recently, and like they come to life when they're talking to you because you can relate to them, A, because you were a footballer yourself. So they know they feel comfortable with you. Yeah. B, you're just chatting to them like a human being. You haven't got cameras down their face and lights on.
Not interrogating.
You're not interrogating them, and that's modern media,
Yeah.
So like some people that don't really understand what we do, they'll be like, oh, so you're a journalist? And I'm like, no. I don't know what I am really. I'm a creator, I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
But not a journalist. It's not that.
Yeah, because I'm probably same with you. You don't really gossip on people. No. Like one of my rules, because like I've obviously, like you said, played as well.
Yeah,
it's like I just don't talk shit about anyone.
Exactly.
Because like
what it's like.
Yeah, and how would I know? I wasn't there when stuff happened. So like I tend to, and I think that actually builds like a safe space for the athletes or the business person or whoever comes on
100%.
like our shows, because they know that you're kind of looking after their brand as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it does, man. That's why our platforms, or in general podcasts, like get more attention, because the guests just like, oh, who the fuck are they? I didn't know they were like that.
Yeah, and it's a mad opportunity for them because, like, you know how it is now today with the world of social media. If you're an athlete, like you got to be capitalizing on all the rest.
Yeah,
like you look at these, like you look at the effect of, I guess, Cum Dog in the A League, right? Everyone loves Jason Cummings because he's got a character and he's not afraid to show it, and it's easy. He's not doing anything outrageous. He's just chatting. He's just saying what he thinks here and there, and I'm sure there's brand deals that come from that. There's a lot of interest, and it can help. So
he's
it's good
infectious,
that man.
He's
infectious.
Did you see the thing he posted? I think it was when Australia got, it might have been for the World Cup final. He posted a photo of him like speaking in Messi's ear, and his caption was like, "Don't play the occasion, play the game."
Yeah, he's giving advice. He's a legend. He's a legend. Here's a question for you. Do you reckon if he didn't have that character, right, and he wasn't that lovable and everything, would he have played for the Socceroos at the World Cup?
You know what? I think being that character makes him the footballer he is. Like in regards to, because he's so out there in a sense of like he doesn't really care about what people think. Like he's totally himself. I think he's like has supreme confidence on the field. Yeah. Like he feels if it's a pressure moment, like he's got no fear. I can score the goal. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he looks like he's having fun.
Yeah. I really like him as a player, man. He was really highly rated in Scotland. I was at I trialled at Hibernian like in 2015, and he was there.
Oh man.
And everyone was like, this guy's going to be a superstar.
Awesome.
And then out of nowhere, I was like, fuck, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd
be great on here.
Yeah, I know.
You gotta get him on.
We've got to get him on.
You got to get him on.
Yeah. He's a jokester too, man.
Yeah.
About even the interviewees after the game, they're kind of like, they don't really know how to handle it because he's just coming at him.
It's brilliant. It's so good. I love it. We need more of that.
We do. We absolutely do. Now, one of the ways I came across you, Claude, obviously was your podcast, Born Offside podcast. We have to give that a plug. So for those that haven't checked it out, go and do that and see some of Claude's work. It's absolutely awesome. But the first time I sort of probably saw more of you was around the World Cup.
Yep.
And there was, I guess, a crew of you that got working with SBS. There was different shows. You were actually like on regularly with some of the panelists at times. Like it was pretty full on experience.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
Before we go into the World Cup, just want to know like how that came about and obviously the overall experience of that.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. As I said, our company, I Wanted Yesterday, we actually crossed paths with some of the guys at SBS. It was at the cricket of all places.
What?
Right. So start of last year, went out. This is why it's very important. Anyone that's starting any sort of business or anything in a cricket, you get invited to something, an event, just go.
Say yes.
You know, I'm not a big cricket man myself, you know, and neither is my business partner. We're just not really into cricket, but we thought, you know what, let's go. We'll go to this box. We'll go enjoy the cricket. Like, why not? Let's give it a chance.
Yeah.
Firstly, the cricket was decent. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot about it.
Was this like a test match?
Yeah.
At SCG last year?
Yeah, SCG last year.
Right.
Okay. But we met one of the people from SBS and just started chatting about what their plans were for the year. They knew who we were. They'd seen some of our shows, and we didn't realize that many people knew about us. Fast forward, we end up, you know, catching up and having lunch with them, and I guess they learned more about our story and how we were impacted by SBS growing up. You know, my parents Italian, so me and my older brother, who I work with as well, we grew up Sunday Arvos, Les Murray, World Game. That was everything for us, right? That was, I remember when that was the only football you could get before Fox Sports kind of blew up with the A-League and everything.
Yep.
So, you know, explaining our stories to them, and they saw a lot of similarities. And I guess we're a little bit edgy. We're a little bit Gen Z in a lot of ways. And SBS, you know, traditionally are on the other side, but they knew that their brand had to go that way, and that football has now fragmented into so many different broadcasters, but they're still the spiritual home. They looked at us and they're like, I think you're the spiritual like production agency for football. You know, everything about you, everyone, the person that's holding the camera has a club, loves it, plays it. You know, the person that's in charge of the audio has a club, loves it, plays it.
Really?
And they saw that and they were like, we have to work with you. And it was amazing. And they gave me the opportunity to host the daily show, World Cup Daily. And they trusted me to bring my crew on. So I had Olan, I had Kat Haddad, I had Kat Sasso.
So you could run sort of, you had a bit of freedom to...
The whole creative freedom.
Are you producing the show in regards to like the production stuff for your company? Or is that SBS is doing that and it's just you guys doing the content?
We did the entire show.
Wow. So they've given you like full ownership in a sense.
Yeah. And even like one of my best mates, Adamo, who I grew up with and we've had shows together, like I called him up and I was like, listen, I've got this amount of budget available. I want to send you to Qatar for the whole World Cup. And like he was so beside himself, and he went there and he absolutely smashed it. And like for me to be able to call those shots and put the people that I've been working with for so long on this show on the biggest stage, just like, it was amazing.
That'd be rewarding as hell. Who can you reel off some of the names that you interviewed through that period? Because
on that show,
you had a lot of big names.
Yeah, well,
even like people dialing in or whatever in person. It was pretty big.
It was good. We opened up with Harry Kewell. So that was first.
Big start.
That was a big start. We knew like
how humble is he? He's a really good guy, eh?
Yeah, amazing.
Really, yeah, he's a chiller.
Really good. And he was flying to Qatar that night. So he came into our studios, shot with us, and then just spent the whole day because he's like, we're near the airport. He's just like, well, I'm not going to go back home. So he hung out with us the whole day. Like Harry Q was like, had lunch with us, was just hanging out, chatting to everyone, like kicking a ball around.
That would blow my mind. He's like my biggest idol growing up. Like, bro.
It was surreal. It was really surreal. And that was how we started. Like, he's going to be a good month, you know? Like,
how does it get better than that?
How does it get better? But it was good. Yeah, we had the whole SBS crew on. So we had Craig Foster on, Mark Bosnich was on, Scott McDonald, who's a good friend of mine, came on a couple of times because he's got cracker banter as well as being an awesome player. We had Martin Tyler on from Qatar. Hanging out with Adamo, which is amazing. Like two very different generations, but those two just got along like a house on fire.
Really?
Yeah.
How old is Martin Tyler? He's
70s. Yeah.
It's amazing, bro. He's still as good as ever, isn't he?
Yeah. It's crazy. And just to hear like his experiences, he's covered so many World Cups.
Yeah.
And he had a great chat with Adamo about generations. Like he was talking, so this is when Pele was still around, right? And we knew he was sick, but he was still alive. And he was talking about how Pele will always be the greatest for him because it's the generation you grew up with.
Yeah.
And he was talking to Adamo, he's like, Messi will probably always be the best for you. Even when you talk to your grandkids and they have this new one, it's something sticks with you at that age. Yeah. So he was like just idolizing Pele and talking to Adamo, who's trying to like tell him about Messi's better and all this stuff. And it was just such a good chat. So all these guys, to have them on was just, it was just amazing. Legends of the game.
Yeah, special, man. You know, actually speaking of that with the generational views of players, you know Neil Warnock, the coach in the Premier League? But they asked him who the greatest player all time to him was, and he said Pele.
Yeah.
And he goes, he went and watched Santos play, I think it was like Nottingham Forest or someone back in the 70s, like at their ground. It was like a wet, rainy night. Yeah. And he goes, no one could get near Pele. He was doing things that no one could do. And then he got a penalty. And back then he did like similar to like what Jorginho does now.
Right.
He stopped and like propped and then the keeper went and he just put it to the side. And back then it was like, what the fuck?
No one's ever done that.
Yeah. And then an opposition player went down the other end and tried to do it when they had a penalty. Fucking roofed it. He's like Pele was different class because it's just that time, you know?
Yeah. It's like you see all those videos of like the things Pele did first. That's the thing. Of course, football is always going to get better. It's evolution. But all those skills you see, the ones you take for granted, like a simple Ronaldo chop, and you see Pele did it in the 50s. Like he started all that. So
the Cruyff turn, everything.
The Cruyff turn,
that stuff would have been mind-blowing. Now we see it, it's just like an extension of what we know.
Yeah.
Hey, what was your take of the overall Qatar World Cup? Because obviously there was a lot of contentious issues going in, but now we've come out of it. I mean, what was your sort of overall view of how it was?
It was quite interesting because we were really immersed in it because when you're working with SBS, not only you have SBS Sport, but you have SBS World News. So they were covering everything. So you got to hear everything from both sides. Sport was instructed to kind of just stick to sport, but the news team was everywhere.
Human rights, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, Foz, like, he's massive on
incredible
that. Right? So chatting to him as well, I guess I got a lot more background about things. And yeah, it's controversial to say the least, of course. There's no doubt about that. But the World Cup, I thought, from a football perspective, from a tournament perspective, was pretty incredible.
Man, I thought it was one of the best ever.
I didn't expect that. I really didn't. When I heard how, these stadiums are all so close to each other, air-conditioned stadiums, like seriously, like, and this isn't done, and these hotels have, and Adamo was on the ground, one of my best mates. We FaceTimed every day. And he's like, mate, it's seamless. It's seamless.
Really?
Everything's been so easy. The stadiums have been incredible. All of them are state of the art. The football's been good. The players, he goes, in the stadiums, he goes, if you're not careful, you don't have a jacket, you'll catch a cold. Like, it's perfect conditions to play football. It's like, you cannot tell that.
That's what Marco Tilio said when he came on here. He's like, man, it's like sitting on your couch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, in Qatar, it's the Middle East. Like, it's fucking hot there.
Man, it's just the amount of money. They could build something we hadn't seen before.
Seriously, yeah.
And he was saying, actually, I think one of the stadiums, I think it was the shipping container stadium, wasn't used after like the quarterfinals, and he passed it before the final, and it was already half deconstructed and being shipped to be built in another country. Like, they straight away, as soon as the last game was played, they started doing that. So it's
my god,
it's another level. Like, of
I was super like excited about the football going in because I was like, I watched this clip with David Beckham. And he was talking about England's World Cup experiences when he was captain. And he said one of the biggest challenges for him was like coming off these 50, 60 game seasons and then going into like, excuse me, a 2-month training camp for like the World Cup. And he's like, by the time you got to game one, you were fucking exhausted in a sense. Whereas this time around, like,
blessing.
Players have played like 10, 15 games. They're fresh as anything. It's just like the short turnaround. Like if you got an injury, you missed the World Cup.
That was
the only
problem.
downfall.
Yeah, we lost a few big players. but in the end, it was amazing. And you couldn't have written a better storyline. I think as Aussies, we loved it more because, I mean, we won 2 games, kept 2 clean sheets. Like that was the best run we've had. I mean, I know we remember 06 and it was amazing because it was the first run we had, but this was like to win 2 games back to back and then push Argentina the way we pushed them. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So I think as Aussies, this will always have a special spot. But even just because Messi, he's a great of the game. Everyone knows whether you think he's the GOAT or not, he's a great of the game, and he's gone all the way and finally won the World Cup after losing it. So the storylines were all there.
Yeah.
Morocco, the storylines were all there.
It was amazing. Hey guys, just a quick pause in this episode to let you know that I have partnered with Dabble this year. Share the experience. Now, Dabble is a online betting platform. It is absolutely unbelievable. Very similar to Instagram, where you can follow people and copy their bets. Now, you guys may have seen me do some World Cup streams through the World Cup, talking about the World Cup, building bets, which we were very successful at. So we are going to be doing that every week from Tuesday nights, 7 to 8 on the Dabble YouTube platform. So come along, let's talk about sport, football, whatever it may be, and build some multis that are going to get up. I'll be there 7 p.m. every Tuesday on the Dabble YouTube. Let's get back into the episode. I'm going to put you on the spot here, and this is going to be a tough question to answer because you've been a part of both through, a kid and adult probably.
Yeah.
But which one do you give more credit to for the Socceroos getting out of the group, 06 or 2022? Like, which one for you is, because both groups were tough.
Yeah.
The sort of 06 was like the first time ever, but then this time no one gave him a chance.
Yeah.
Can you split them?
You know what? Like, it's similar to that conversation we just had. Generational wise, 06 will always be special to me because of my age at the time, because of everything, because I was at the Uruguay game to qualify, and then I got to watch that, and that was special. But as an achievement, I would say this one.
Yeah,
probably.
I think so too.
I would say this one.
Man, the players last time, they were expecting to get out of the group.
Yeah. And there was only one way we were going to, and this is why you got to give credit to the management staff, because there was only one way we were going to get out of that group, especially after losing 4-1.
Oh, man.
There was only one way we had to play, and there was only one way we were going to get out of it. And we went there and went clean sheet, 1-0, and we're through. And it was perfect. And that's everything we had to do, we did.
Absolutely.
And in the end, Tunisia ended up beating France. So we had to win that game.
I know. It's funny. We spoke about this with Lex. For those that haven't seen the episode with Matthew Leckie, go back and check it. It's so crazy. Some of the, just like hearing him talk about like Mbappe up close or Messi and like what he saw. But he was telling us that they didn't know the scoreline, and Milos Degenek on the sideline heard about it and started telling the whole team. And because Mills is the kind of guy that would like just amp up the Socceroos, so no one believed him because like he's just saying it so everyone switches on. And then they finished like, fuck.
He was legit.
Thank God. Yeah. Why? Because they beat France.
Yeah. Amazing.
And France's second team was still like, a proper team.
Us up the French there. I was spewing watching that. How are you losing 1-0?
Oh my God.
But that was amazing. It was perfect. And then the Argentina game, like even that in itself, like I don't know whether that last 20 minutes in itself was amazing. I don't know if we would have played like that if we weren't 2-0 down. It's almost like a blessing we copped the 2-0 because we just said, you know what, fuck it. We're going to go for it. And then you got Beige taking on players like Roberto Carlos.
Bro, if that had gone in, that was goal of the tournament.
Yeah, 100%.
You just missed it.
100%.
The right Pegasus.
Yeah, exactly.
But we said this is what I find fascinating. I think maybe people overlooked it. We've been out of 2 World Cup groups, been knocked out by the champions both times.
There you go.
Like literally within a kick, good. Italy within a kick, Argentina could have gone
either way. Yeah, qual slots that.
Yeah, seriously, imagine that.
Yeah.
My goodness,
it's something to be proud of with the team we had, with the qualification we had, and all the problems and all the media scrutiny. They should all be proud of themselves. Yeah.
Do you have is there a very obvious highlight for you about the World Cup? Like one thing that stands out that you're just like, fuck.
I mean, look, away from the football, it's of course doing the show we did with the people we did, because it was like watching all the games together every morning before the sun rises, and it was just like, it sounds crazy, it sounds terrible, but it's the best thing ever. And like when we hit the first rest break, rest day, I just wake up and I was like, I miss it already. Like it was just shit. I want to get back in there. It was so good because it's with a good crew and at our own studios as well. So we had our own rules and everyone having kickabouts once we finished shooting and just like real good vibe. But from a football point of view, my highlight, from a football point of view, I mean, it has to be the Socceroos, doesn't it? I'm not just saying that because it was on your pod. It has to be Leckie's goal.
Yeah, Leckie's goal for me.
It has to be Leckie's goal because I love Matt Lex, but he was gassed. I was watching that game. I was like, hey, if I was a gaffer, I'd probably take Lex off because he looked gassed. Like, the guy had played almost every minute of the group stage. I was like, he looks so tired. And then to have the energy to do what he did there and like in and out, zigzag, stay calm, left foot, it's perfect. That was the highlight.
Man, he's the chillest guy ever, man. Yeah. That's one of the most common reviews or comments we've got about him. They're like, man, I've never seen a more chill person.
Yeah.
Like he was speaking about the goal and he was just like, like it's just like it was nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, that is every kid's dream. What you just did. Like, can't get better than that.
Yeah.
He I think he was speaking about it. It's like when he got the ball, he was just looking for someone to pass the whole time.
Yeah, there's no one around.
Yeah, no one around. So he had to do what he did. And it's like, but that just forced him to be the superstar he was, man.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That was an amazing moment. It was the best.
Do you, so I want to ask you this. I think I know probably one of them, but biggest surprise packet from the World Cup?
Well, it has to be Morocco.
Yeah.
It has to be Morocco. That was amazing. Biggest surprise from the World Cup. Yeah, look, Japan were great.
Japan, very underrated what they did, don't you think?
They were brilliant. They were great. It was great for Asian football in general. I think like even the teams that did bomb out, even South Korea, who got smacked by Brazil, but had that win in the last minute against Portugal. Even Saudi Arabia, who unfortunately went out in the group, but they had that win against Argentina. So every Asian team, besides Qatar, every Asian team, they did something on the international scale. And I think you saw it with Morocco and how they were when they got to the semi-final, their manager Rogage was saying all of Africa should go for us because we are representing Africa. It doesn't matter where you're from, whatever. So I think we need to feel a little bit like that with Asia as well because we are part of the Asian Confederation. Definitely. So we've got to feel proud when Asian football's doing well. That means we get more spots to qualify for World Cups, you know. So the biggest surprise was Asia. I think we had more Asian teams than South American teams in the next round.
That's crazy.
For the first time probably ever. It would be ever.
Which is like, that's punching well above it. Like Saudis even beaten Argentina game one. That was
huge.
Yeah,
and they deserved that too.
Yeah, they did. They were unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're actually, speaking of South Korea, they played one of the games of the tournament, even though they lost against Ghana. It was 3-2. Like that. Yeah, they were involved in some serious blockbusters. Yeah. Who for you was your biggest letdown? I guess who did you expect more from?
Biggest letdown, obviously Belgium. Yeah. Like that was terrible. I can't say I didn't see it coming because that Belgian squad has been, I don't know, they were world number one for like 4 years.
They're like round of 16 quarterfinals and
that's it. Yeah. That was a big letdown for me. And Qatar, I'll be honest with you, I expected better from Qatar. I went into this and at Optus, we did this thing with like everyone from around the world with the Optus team put in their tips. I had Australia to lose to Argentina in the round of 16. I had, Messi golden ball Argentina to win. That a lot of people were tipping that. Yeah. I got so many right, but my dark horse was Qatar. I really thought Qatar were going to go on a great run.
You know what? Yeah, because apparently someone, and I didn't know this going into the World Cup, that, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I reckon you'll know. Yeah. But like the Qatar preparation for the World Cup, the players, they were doing it for much longer apparently. They were even pulled out of teams to prepare for it or something like that.
Yeah. So Qatar and Saudi Arabia prepared for 2 months.
Yeah. What the heck?
Yeah. So they took their players, they stopped their leagues, they did the ultimate preparation. Qatar won the FIFA Arab Cup, they won the Asian Cup. Yeah. So coming into this, like for me at home, and there was always talk about the conditions, and I was like, hey, if anyone knows how to play in these conditions, it's going to be them, and then probably us because we played there for so long. Yeah. But then just to see the way they came out, it's that first game against Ecuador. Credit to Ecuador, but Qatar just were not in it from the first minute. Yeah. And that was a big disappointment. Whatever you feel about, the country and everything else, it's like a home team and those players have put so much into it. And you see that they brought that coaching staff in over a decade ago and invested so much into this group of players. And finally, this is your moment and that's what you produce. I felt bad for him.
I felt awful for him. Yeah. I had a newfound respect for Ecuador as well. Yeah. First game of the tournament, just come out and bossed it. Yeah. Whole world's watching. Yeah, it was impressive. Yeah. Before the World Cup, I think like a lot of people had written the Socceroos off, obviously from getting out of the group, but even in general, like not even making the World Cup at one point. Obviously, we had an incredible qualifying campaign, which saw us get there. After that, I felt like that was a bit of a penny drop moment for me because I was like, fuck, all right, maybe we don't have 5 or 6 players playing in the top 4 leagues in Europe in some of the best teams, whatever. But I'm like, there's a character in this team. Yeah. That's like very impressive because how we got out of where we were to get to the World Cup. Yeah. Did you see them getting out of the group though with the group we had?
I believed because I felt as though France and Denmark won't be straightforward. I'll be honest with you. I thought France would maybe flop. I thought maybe they would flop,
Because they're either in the World Cup final or they don't get out of the group, friends. Yeah. There's like no real in between. There's no in between.
Exactly. Unfortunately, they went with the first option. Yeah. But yeah, look, when I looked at it, I thought, look, the French had so many injuries. There was this internal drama with Kylian Mbappe and Karim Benzema, and that was like good. Yeah. Denmark were having a lot of political issues, which fair enough. They made their voice heard.
Oh, were they?
But they made their voice heard, but they were like #1 team going against Qatar, and they stopped all they weren't flying the families out to Qatar. They were leaving them there and they were just flying the players in, no brands, no nothing, no. And I'm like, that could affect them.
They went too far.
They went too far. I thought, okay, that could be good. Tunisia, I was a bit worried about, to be honest.
I thought Tunisia was going to be one of our hardest games. Yeah. Well, Denmark I thought would be, but Tunisia,
Yeah, and I do think there was a harder game than Denmark. I thought Denmark were quite woeful. They were really, when you saw them at Euro 2020 and then you saw that at the World Cup, It's just like
that's why I thought Denmark would be our hardest game because of how good I know they are.
Yeah.
But they were miles off it. Just bad tournament.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess I believed after seeing, the effort against Peru, and like that's competitive football. That's football where, okay, there's an objective and you'll do anything to get that objective, even if it's not pretty. If we need to go 0-0 and all the way to penalties, we do it. And that's how I felt we played against Denmark and Tunisia, and it was good. I interviewed Graham Arnold during the qualifying campaign. And my interview with him was right before we played Saudi Arabia in Sydney. And we drew 0-0 and Harry Suter did his ACL, right? So my interview with him was the week before that. We were flying high. We were 11 wins straight. We were cruising to the World Cup, right? So chatting to him, it was a great vibe. And then after I chat to him, we just went like, draw to Saudi Arabia, lost to Japan. I think we drew to China or some shit. And we ended up like so close to going out. And I was like, fuck, he's never going to do an interview with me again. Like,
you're the omen. You're the bad ace. I was actually going to ask you about him because I saw a photo of you interviewing him. What was most impressionable to you about Arnie?
I think he'd be great to play for. I really do think he'd be great to play for. And I don't know, I haven't been coached by him, so I'm not going to speak tactically. Everyone's got their opinions on his tactics and whether he should play this or that or that or that. But as a person, I feel as though he'd be an inspiring character to play for. I was in a bit of a, I'm not really one for much Twitter, right? But our videos from Born Offside, they get posted on Twitter. And I was in this Twitter thing where like everyone was having their 2 cents on my opinion. But I basically said that I felt that, you see how the players have a rule that you have to be a citizen of that country to play for that country. I thought managers should have the same rule.
Oh, right.
That was my
what? It makes sense.
Do you know what I mean? Because when I look at Graham Arnold and what he did with his players, I don't think an international manager probably could have done that because it looked like pure belief. And he's got this thing, I've seen him, we've worked with Sydney FC and shot stuff when he was coaching there. He's got this thing about, and Regragui from Morocco did the same thing. Even if people love you from the outside and everyone's going for Morocco, he'll pull the players in and convince them that the world wants them to lose and that everyone hates you and that it's you against the world and you need to do this for your families. And Arnie does the same thing. Like, even if the media is positive about Australia, like during the World Cup, he'll reel them in and go, they all hate you. They all want you to lose. And he'll just build this camaraderie. And that's why I like him. I think as a man manager, he's the best we've got.
Yeah. I reckon from what I've been told as well, the environment of like the Socceroos hotel, everything off the field was just like A+. Everyone loved each other.
Yeah. How good would that be, In camp with your best mates for a month. I'd be player number 26. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah, Martin Boyle. He's the chief vibes officer.
Yeah, how good is that?
Like stuck around, couldn't play, and he's like still happy as Larry. And I'm like, man, that says a lot, when boys don't play. Even Lex said it when he scored. He's like, man, he's like, the thing that he watches is the bench.
Yeah.
Like when they came on, he's like, some guys that weren't even playing, like their reaction was more than mine.
Yeah, like Milos.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Was it the game we won against Tunisia, I think, or
correct.
Denmark, and he's crying there and he's on the bench.
It's crazy.
It's the best.
Some of his speeches, did you see them? The game?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, they were like with Coach Carter, man. Braveheart shit.
Yeah.
Before we drift off into some other topics, just before I do that, just want to know from the Socceroo playing group, who impressed you at the World Cup? Anyone you expected, didn't expect, that performed on the biggest stage?
I thought I was really impressed. I have the luxury of speaking to a lot of them for our show on Bein Sports. We have this segment Near and Far where we talk about, we Zoom call them while they're just in training and just like living in Scotland. How's life over there? And I spoke a little bit to Bacchus at one point, and when he had just signed for St. Mirren. And I'd, seen a fair bit of him in the A-League, and both the Bacchus brothers grew up playing for Blacktown City, which we play a lot against.
I used to play with his brother.
Did you?
Kieran, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, back in the day.
And both obviously very tidy players, but, on that scale, when he got thrown in, I thought he was brilliant. And I thought, like, he really stepped up and earned his spot to start in that Argentina game.
Crazy.
So I was really proud of him as a player from Western Sydney. Mitch Duke, I know what he brings to football, and I've always said, like, sometimes your team is set up that you need a player to do that job. And when you talk to Mitch, he admits he knows what he's there for. He knows he's not flashy. He knows he's not going to beat 10 players and score a goal. He knows what his job is, and he does it so well. So he impressed me too. Craig Goodwin was great for the A-League, wasn't it? Just to see him step up.
I reckon he'll get a move soon,
Yeah, he's at that point in his career now. It's like, what is the next step? Do you go for a cash grab before you get too old?
Yeah, and Adelaide's kind of slipping down the ladder, and I'm like, you just had a good World Cup.
Yeah.
Unless you want to, like, lock up shop there in your family and stuff.
Yeah.
But I just thought he'd be gone.
I think you get a good deal, just at least 2-3 years.
Middle East, Asia, wherever.
Yeah, I reckon as well.
Big money.
And of course, Harry Suter. To do that after an ACL, a lot of players, I've done one, a lot of players have done one and know what it's like coming back, especially when you're that size and you lose a lot of speed, and he barely preprepared for this World Cup. He was fantastic.
I think, was it the Tunisia game, the last ditch blocks, the efforts? Like, man, it was just inspiring.
Yeah, he was incredible.
Yeah. I actually, we spoke about this last time. I'll put it to you, but the Mitch Duke header.
Yeah.
I only think Olivier Giroud could score a goal like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's such a unique way of scoring that not all strikers can score that. Use the pace of the ball, like float like a duck, not even see the goal.
Yeah, he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew where he was putting it, right? It was fantastic. You saw it, they played that game recently, that Saudi Arabian All-Stars against PSG, and Ronaldo had a goal that he scored, but it was a header that went off the post and came back to him and he scored it. Yeah. But it was very similar. It was like he's on the near side of the goal and like glanced it back to the far post.
Which is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah. So I know I'm comparing Cristiano Ronaldo and Mitch Duke, but why not? Why not? Duke went and actually went in.
I think Duke might have scored more at the World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. So it was an amazing header. Great moment.
Oh, beautiful, man. Well, yeah, you did do a great job on SBS for you're very clean and come across really well, which on it's one thing to watch on TV, different to be behind the camera and actually do it in real time and then be sitting next to like fucking Mark Bosnich and Craig Foster and like holding a level of conversation with, those guys, which I can imagine would have been pretty cool. Yeah. Did that take some time to get used to, or were you okay from the get-go?
I think I was okay from the get-go. I think I realized when I did Euro 2020 for Optus, that was the first time I did live.
Oh, so maybe back then, did that take time to get used to initially? Like being on that platform?
You know what I do? This is going to sound ridiculous. I tense my calves.
Tense my calves?
Right, I tense my calves.
What?
This is the key.
Oh, like when you're sitting there?
When I'm sitting there, my calves are on fire. My calves are on fire. If I'm ever feeling nervous, because when I was doing Euros, like things would fall through, things would change, the producer would say something, it's all going, you can't tell, because you look at the presenters, everything's sweet. In the background, everything's fucking on fire, right?
Oh my days.
And I just naturally, and I used to do this at school when I do speeches, right? If I was feeling nervous, I'd tense both my calves. No one's looking at your calves. If you got shorts on, you're in trouble. But then you just look like Jack Grealish. You look sweet. You know what I mean? You look like
best cars in the world.
Exactly. Yeah. No one looks there, but I feel like if I focus all my nervous energy down there, then I look super chilled up top. So my calves are always tense if I'm in a nervous moment.
Fuck, man. I don't know. Showbiz, huh?
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. That's incredible.
But then it's bad because then I go play football that night and I'm like, my calves are cramping and I'm
ripping off the bone.
So what's wrong with you? I'm presenting today, mate. It was a tough gig.
Oh, man. I don't think you're a weirdo.
Yeah.
One of the downfalls probably for me with the World Cup, and this is post-World Cup, is it felt like a great time for Australian football to capitalise on like some success. And it kind of the natural sort of progression, it feels like quite negative with obviously decisions around the grand finals, the APL, and obviously the fan drama with the Melbourne Derby and so forth. What's sort of been your like feeling around that? Did you get a sense of disappointment, or do you think it's not as big as what people are making it out to be?
A bit of both. Bit of both. Of course, I was disappointed. It was terrible for football. It was. I was out at dinner during that Melbourne Derby, and then I got tagged in all these things, and I looked and I got all these videos sent to me, and I was like, oh no, this is terrible. This is terrible for the game. Unfortunately, as terrible as it is, these things happen, and they happen everywhere. And I'm not condoning it. It was terrible, and people should be giving life bans and should never attend a football match again. But we also need to move forward, and and mainstream media is always going to grab that and use that story for the next 5 years because that's what they like to do to our game. But yeah, it was bad. Starting with the grand final decision, I think from what I heard from people within that circle, this decision was made a long, long time ago, and they knew this was happening. Literally,
is this purely like a business decision as well?
It's a business
for the growth of the A-League, right? It's not to
growth is for money, right?
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Exactly.
So the growth of the A-League financially, because that's why they need to do it.
Yes,
and the league's not making as much money as it would like.
Exactly. And I'm I don't know too much about. I'm no treasurer, but it didn't sound like a whole lot of money in my eyes. So I was like a little bit disappointed at that. But I thought if you knew this a long time ago, for me, the problem wasn't the decision they made. The problem was like, you had to have a PR plan for this. Yeah. Surely, mate. Like if you knew a year and a half ago that this was the decision, did you not spend a year and a half like finding out what people would want to hear?
Yeah.
Like, okay, listen, it's only 3 years. Position it like that. I know it's only 3 years. I know. But 3 years, we're going to do a final here. We're going to get this investment. With this money, it's going to allow us to do this to the league. And we're going to improve this. That's how you speak to football fans. You don't just come out one day and with this video, which has been edited of players saying that they love A-League finals and they didn't even know they were going to be in this video.
Yeah.
And you just tell people, okay, finals are in Sydney now. And the headlines were like, A-League finals moved to Sydney. People didn't know it was only 3 years. People didn't know there was money injected or where that money is going to be going. So it was just terrible PR.
It's incredible, man. Because not only the fan disconnect, which is a huge problem, but I guarantee now, maybe I don't know about the Sydney siders. There's not one player that likes that. Like,
No.
do you know what I mean?
Even the Sydney siders don't.
Yeah, like it's if all the players are like that, that's shit.
Yeah, yeah. And especially the year after, literally like the 3 Melbourne teams dominated the league last year.
Yeah, Western and City were the final last year.
Yeah.
Imagine that in Sydney. I always think like that. I'm like, would that get a crowd like Western versus City in Western Sydney or something?
I don't think it would. And it's a shame. That's a shame. What happened then after that is an even bigger shame. And you guys would have felt it more here in Melbourne. I'm sure.
Oh, Victory's still feeling it, bro.
Yeah.
Like it's, the next few games or
Yeah.
beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a shame. And unfortunately, you've seen this in so many places around the world. You saw it recently with Arsenal taking on Tottenham. That one idiot can ruin it for everyone. A guy jumps the fence and kicks Aaron Ramsdale. Why are you doing that? Well, the rest of the stadium wouldn't do that. And that's unfortunately how it is. And I know some real big Melbourne Victory fans, and they were the most embarrassed and they were the most disappointed because they don't want to condone that. They don't feel that way. They love the fact that their club is, let's be real, Melbourne Victory, probably the biggest club in Australia. They love that. They know that, and they want to represent that, but not in that way. And it sucks when someone's let you down.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's what it is, being part of a football team.
Yeah.
And being a member of a club. So look, it's terrible. I think we all got to move on from it. And the way to do that is handing out these life bands, making sure these people don't set foot in the stadium again, make an example of them, and we have to move on though.
Correct.
We have to.
And this is definitely not to condone it because I've spoken about this already on this show, how ridiculous it was. But when you grow up close to football, because obviously in this city, Melbourne, there's a lot of AFL crowd and they don't experience that type of behaviour from fans, which is good.
Yeah.
But when you grow up in the football world and you see like River Plate versus Boca Juniors, it's like a rate of 1 death per game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a bit more normalised to you.
Yeah.
Even though it's ridiculous, like the keeper getting hit, Glover getting hit by the bucket was out of this world. Yeah. But it's like you see it.
This game does that to people around the world.
It happens a lot sometimes, man.
It does. Yeah, and I've got a lot of family in Buenos Aires, so I've had the luxury of flying over there, watching River Plate play, and these people, they live and breathe it like to another level that you don't understand.
Oh man, you don't conversate with people who are the other color of the city.
Exactly.
You know?
Not to mention the Turkish Super League. If you ever like that, that's on my list to go watch games in the Turkish Super League. I love
Galatasaray versus
Istanbul's
Besiktas or
football
something.
culture is just insane.
Yeah.
I want to go and see it.
Did you speak to Harry Kuehl actually about his time in Gala?
Yeah.
What did he say about it? Because he was a legend there, and I think Galatasaray at the time was booming.
I reckon Istanbul's his favorite city in the world.
Yeah.
He loves it. We were chatting about it, and I said to him, I'm like, you're a legend over there, eh? And he's like, man. He goes, it's so good. And once you've played for Gala, and if you've been successful for Gala, he goes, you walk into every restaurant, you get a table everywhere, you'll get a haircut everywhere for free, you'll go in. Like, he goes, he's like a legend there. But he goes, but besides all that, he goes, it's one of the most beautiful places on earth. Yeah. For so many reasons. He goes back regularly.
Bruce Jitte was playing in Turkey at the time, and he obviously, I think he was sort of in the Socceroos in and out, so he knew Harry Kuehl quite well, and they were hanging out over there, and he goes, man, he'd just go with Harry, he'd just like party in the Red Sea. Everyone would move. It was just huge, man.
So good.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah. Going into the A-League now, obviously the team to beat's been Melbourne City. Yeah. Paper. Yeah. Do you think they can be stopped? Like, and if so, who?
Look, maybe in a final series.
Like a one-off game.
That's why we have finals, right? I don't think anyone's stopping them to the minor premiership, which for me is the league title.
Yeah. So are you one of those?
I'm a football romantic.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm all about that.
I spoke to Nani about this as well, recently, and he was like, he doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
Because I was explaining to him, I was like, man, like he wasn't maybe happy with his first sort of start to the season, and I was like, man, like understand, but in Australia, like you just want to arrive on the back end, bro. Like you don't want to lose that distance between top, because last year Victory went 16 games undefeated and then one bad game in the second leg.
Yeah. And I hate that. I'll be honest with you, I hate that.
Which is why you've got that view, right?
Yeah, because this is why like football has a league and a cup competition. And I personally am a huge advocate of the Australia Cup. I think it's, almost still undervalued, but it's growing. But that needs to be your cup competition. And I'm not saying get rid of I don't think the A-League's at a point where we can get rid of the final series yet, but in an ideal world, yes, I think we wouldn't have a final series, but the Australia Cup would maybe run with the season, and that is your final series. That is your semi-final. You get to the semi-final of the Australia Cup, it's a big game, right? Yeah. You get to the final of the Australia Cup. So they become almost as prestigious as each other, like the FA Cup and the Premier League. I'm more a fan of first past the post, or maybe something like, you know what I've always thought would be good here, but obviously we don't have relegation, right? Which is great for Melbourne Victory, because Melbourne could just chill and focus on next season. Yeah. Which is ridiculous. But anyway,
it's shocking.
Which is ridiculous. But I like what they do in the Scottish Premiership, because they only have 12 teams in Scotland, right? And they play everyone 3 times, and then they split the league 6 and 6. So the top 6 play each other in the last 5 rounds. Bottom 6 play each other in the last 5 rounds. And there's no finals, but it means, if you're first in the league, you're probably only like 3, 4, 5, 6 points ahead of everyone, but you know you have to finish with second, third, fourth, and fifth.
That's genius. So they make those two buckets of the thing like competitive, almost like a mini final series.
And they're still playing for points. So if you've done your job and you're already 12 points clear, great. But if you're only 3, 4 points clear, you have to play all the biggest teams. And if you're coming fourth and you're only 9 points off top, you know that you get to play third, second, and first.
You're playing your rivals
so
in that spot.
it's all in your hands, you know?
That's amazing.
So it's kind of like a final. Same with relegation.
We should actually do that.
I really like it.
That should be the A-League thing.
Yeah.
Here we go. We'll tell Danny Townsend.
Let's get it started.
Yeah, far out. Seriously. No, because I actually, I think like, with our league, like, and you hear it with Pep, like he talks about the trophies he values the most, and it's always the Premier League.
Yeah.
Because it's the hardest one to win.
Yeah.
And it's not to take away from the Champions League. It's just like home and away legs for 38 games.
Yeah, it's pure dominance.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels like it's a harder victory.
Yeah, it is. That's always been football. That's the way it should be. But anyway.
When you think about sort of your younger days connecting to the A-League, and who for you was the most influential player, like in the history, or just someone that made you gravitate to a particular time or team in the A-League?
That's great. That's a great question. That's a really good question.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Mine was probably, outside of Archie, would be Thomas Broich.
Yeah, I was going to say Thomas Broich because he was fantastic, wasn't he?
Just
I think growing up in Sydney, Del Piero, from everything off the field, was easily the most influential. Like the buzz around Sydney in regards to football for those couple of years, I've never seen before or after.
Yeah.
So that definitely. On the pitch, for me, the best player that's ever worn Sydney FC's shirt, and this is only in a one-off season, was Adrian Mijiewski.
Oh, really?
I think.
Is he with the Polish winger?
Polish guy.
Yeah.
Because Ninkovic, amazing. You know, all these players amazing over
just a
longevity.
one-off season.
One-off season. What he did with the ball, I've never seen another player do.
Really?
He was so good.
That's left field. So good. That is left field.
I loved watching him, and he didn't give a shit about anyone. That's what I loved about him. He was like a mercenary, like that guy. Like he would just go wherever the money was and do his thing, score goals from anywhere. He had like the flex celebration. I loved him. He was my kind of player because he didn't care what anyone thought. But you got to say also, an influential player in this league, Besart Berisha.
Yeah.
Whether you love him or hate him, he's like the Luis Suarez of the A-League.
Yeah, he wasn't he?
And I love those characters.
Very similar.
Yeah.
I reckon Jamie McLaren's going to get him this year for the most goals.
I think so. And I like that he's almost like found, I mean, he's always been a goal scorer, but I feel like character-wise, he's grown into this like, team's starting to hate him. Do you know what I mean? I like that. Yeah. I like that about him.
And he gives it back.
Yeah.
I think like they're playing... We're playing Brisbane soon, but when he plays Brisbane, like he just goes over to him, like he's got who I am. You know?
Yeah. I like that about him.
I love that too.
Yeah.
Probably one of the great things around the A-League, and we saw it a little bit with the World Cup, but obviously now the produce being so young at times, and the talent we're getting to see overseas, and now you sort of see the selection in the World Cup. Had to talk about Grand Qual.
Yeah,
like for you. Obviously, you probably see a little bit more of him being where you are and so forth. But do you think it's too soon, or do you think he really is like what everyone is saying, and that's where he needs to be?
I don't know about Hearts personally.
Yeah,
I was a bit. I wasn't sure about that.
Scotland
in general, I wasn't sure about that. I think it suits certain players. Cammy Devlin is a player I grew up playing with. He suits Scotland. Perfect for him. Get in there. He's a bulldog.
Runner.
He's going to love it there. He's going to play 40 games a season. He's going to improve. That's fantastic. We remember what happened with Daniel Arzani. That was a injury.
This is my thing.
Yeah.
That's I'm the one who I'm like squinting it with the whole Garang Qual situation because I want him to do well. And I think
100%.
probably ability wise, when you watch him, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of like 17, 18. It's a lot, man.
Yeah. And when I look at like him as a player, he's dynamic. He's got that change of pace, but he's got flair and he's got skill. And I couldn't help but think if he went to a bit more of a technical footballing nation, they would grab that and harness it and develop it in the right way. You know, like there was these rumors that he was maybe going to go to Portugal or something. And I was kind of hoping he'd go there.
Better.
You know, speak a whole different language. You develop it. You become a man when you have to speak a whole different language in another country. And then also it's such a technical league. I thought that would suit him more, but I get it. He's super young.
Yeah.
So he's going to a club with 3 other Aussies already in the first team. He's going to be comfortable there. Hopefully he'll get a lot of game time. I get it. And it might be a good move for him. And he is owned by Newcastle, so...
Well, if there's anything that could replicate a little bit of English football, you think the Scottish nature might help him. But...
if you were a young player, would you rather go on loan to Scotland or to the Championship, the English Championship?
Probably Scotland.
Really? Okay.
Only because I put the Championship on such a level of difficulty.
Okay.
To play like a high quality brand of football.
Right.
Like it's a shit fight every game. It's the most entertaining league in the world.
Yeah.
Because it's not like And the only reason is I'm thinking like, where would I actually get more football development out of?
Okay, Scotland.
Yeah, maybe because I'd play like the championships. It's fourth most viewed league in the world. I think
mental.
It's crazy, bro. Yeah. But I do worry about him because I said this to Jamie McLaren like when it all happened. I was like, he's like, fuck, man, like because I was asking about him, like, is he like, what's he like in camp and stuff? He gave him like big props. He's like, I was like, fuck, man, like 17, 18, like going to Newcastle. I was like. It's a tough thing to do. He's, yeah, man, no one's done it. I'm like, yes, they have, bro. I'm like, Curtis Good.
Yeah.
He signed a 6-year deal there.
That's right.
And like, you know, like a guy that I used to play with and be good friends with and had to come back. Like, I'm like, I don't want that to happen again.
Yeah.
Like time it, you know?
It's true. You saw a lot of players with big clubs. I mean, James Treacy was a Juventus player for 5 years.
You know? Mate, he's got like an unbelievable story.
Yeah, like you end up being owned by those clubs and it can go either way. So look, I dare say that if that was dangled in front of any other 18-year-old, I think anyone would have taken it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You can't not take it as well.
You can't not take it.
Yeah, that's it. It's a really good point. Yeah. I want to dip into the Premier League because we love talking about the Premier League, and this has probably been almost like, it feels like a bit of a changing of the guard year in some regards because we've been so used to Liverpool, Man City dominance, and obviously City is still well and truly there. But what's been your sort of makeup of the Premier League so far? Because you do some stuff around it, don't you?
Yeah. I do a lot of Sunday morning shows for Optus on the Premier League and stuff. Yeah, I've been all over it, and I've got a soft spot for Chelsea. Chelsea's always been my club growing up.
What is going on there? Your transfer, like, are you embarrassed as a Chelsea fan, or are you excited?
I'm embarrassed. No, I don't care. Look, I don't look too much into dollars and cents and they spent this much. I don't care about that. I care about like the identity of the club, and I just feel like it's lost so much because obviously your owner's gone, and we know why that happened. But you don't realize that everyone that's in charge of scouting and director of sport, all these people have changed, and you can tell when I watch them play, when I watch the players they sign, it doesn't feel like the Chelsea of old, but clubs do that, right? They change. So let's see. It's been refreshing. I think it has been. Take away the fact that are you an Arsenal fan?
No, Man U.
Good.
I hate Arsenal.
Yeah, I was going to say, take away the fact that Arsenal fans can be so infuriating.
Oh my God, AFTV to a T.
So annoying. But if you take the fans away, no one deserves this more.
Oh man,
so I'm really
so
happy.
enjoyable to watch.
They're so enjoyable to watch. They stuck with a manager that was, a lot of people were calling for his head when he started last season with 3 straight losses, conceding like 10 goals. You remember he lost 5-0 to City, lost 3-0, They stuck with him, stuck with his philosophy. He made massive calls to dump big players like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and the club backed him.
Captain as well.
Exactly. And despite all that, and then even the way he's managed like Granit Xhaka and all these players that have big personalities, but he's brought in, everything is perfect. If they go on and win it, no one would deserve it more.
Do you feel like I feel like everyone?
But I mute everything.
Everyone I still feel is waiting for this like Arsenal kind of slip march. Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean? Like what's happened before?
Yeah, I know, especially when you got City there breathing down your neck. But what might work in their favour is like, look, Pep Guardiola came out recently and he is the type of guy that would just always play these mind games. But he said, we don't care about the Premier League. We've won it so much. We're focusing on the Champions League.
Yeah, he's a genius.
He's a genius like that.
Man.
But you do think that deep down inside, if you asked any City fan in the world, they would want that Champions League trophy more than anything.
Oh, man.
United there, but I think it's still a rebuilding
game that's bothered me.
Yeah,
because I was like, that's if you are that team, you win that.
You win that.
1-0. You don't cop that guy. And now then, obviously, this will probably be out post this, but Casemiro loss against Arsenal too is huge.
Yes, it's
massive. He's like pivotal, man.
Yeah.
So
look, I think they can. These they got a tough run of games. Of course, they still got to play City twice, and that's massive because that could just be 6 points that you lose there.
Yeah,
but I think it's Arsenal's to lose. They've shown it. Credit to them. They deserve it.
Yeah, special team. I don't know. I haven't actually watched this, so take this with a pinch of salt. But apparently, the Arsenal documentary behind the 4 walls with Arteta is unbelievable.
Yeah, I've watched bits and pieces. I've watched bits and pieces because I watched the City one. I watched the Spurs.
Yeah,
one.
I've watched them too.
Yeah,
I haven't watched the Arsenal. I hate Arsenal.
Yeah, so I know what you mean.
I don't give credibility to it.
I know what you mean. I'd probably watch it just for Arteta though.
Yeah,
and the fact that he picked up. Like he's obviously from City, but he's picked up 2 City players that have come in and influenced his team so much as well.
Yeah,
it just feels like he's done a mad job on Pep Guardiola here.
Yeah, let's say absolutely. Who's been your most? Because I don't want to say the best signing because a lot of people probably tend to go with Haaland, but most underrated signing in the Premier this season.
Most underrated signing. Well, you gotta go with Arsenal, don't you? I'm just trying to think.
This is my thing with Arsenal. Their recruitment. I feel like they're not signing the players that are like the biggest names in the world or whatever. They just sign the right pieces, quality players.
Yeah.
and it works.
Yeah, like Zinchenko's turned out to be a fantastic
And
signing,
then
hasn't it?
even Saliba's like gonna be a superstar.
Gabby, if he didn't get injured, we'd probably be sitting here saying Gabby Jesus.
Yeah. Well, Jesus, he's unbelievable.
He's unbelievable.
I watch him play and I'm like, he's one of the best players in the world at Arsenal. Like his movements, he's like a bit like Benzema, where he's so involved in general play. If he doesn't score, he can affect the game so much.
Yeah. I'll say, you know what? I'll give you a bit of love. I'm going to say Casemiro.
Casemiro, yeah,
because
me too.
Number 6 is I've always loved that position. And I watch a lot of Serie A as well. Napoli are flying high, and there's a guy called Lobotka that plays in their midfield that makes everything tick. Like if Lobotka isn't in that team, they don't play the way they play. Kante had that effect on Leicester and Chelsea for many years. Yeah. Casemiro's come in and plugged that up. Bruno Guimaraes, I think, will turn out to be a super player for Newcastle as well. So these signings, clubs are really looking at the way their team play, and they all need this anchor. Yeah. Arsenal are a different team when Thomas Partey plays. Yeah. So I just love that position. So any club that's gone out and actively signed that player, so which you guys did, I would say, that's probably one of the most underrated signings.
I love that. Well done, Claude. Perfect. You know who I love in that position is Rodri as well. I think he's a quarterback.
He's so good, man.
He's a top player. He's a top player. So do you think Arsenal can actually hold this out?
I think they can.
Really?
I really think they can, yeah. Wow. And as I said, the only reason I don't like that is because their fans are so annoying. Yeah. But take that away and I'm proud of them.
Wow. So because I've still got this thing, I'm like, there's got to be, like, there's more drama left in the year.
You think so, yeah?
Well, I'm maybe part of me is hoping.
I definitely think there'll be more drama. They're not going to run away with it. I think there'll be more drama. I think it'll go down towards the very end, but I could just see it happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And if City come back and win this, I mean, look, if United win it, it'll be an absolute fairy tale. But if City come back and win this, it'll just feel like the same as every year, and almost it'll just take the.
It does. It takes the steam out of it.
Take the steam out of it. Although the best thing is there aren't that many City fans, so you don't hear it from that. You don't hear it as much.
But they're all plastic.
You're going to cop it if Arsenal win the league. Right?
I know.
That's why
Seriously.
it's tough. But yeah.
Before we round the show out, I just want to. One of the things that's common at the moment is the ownership around some of these clubs. Obviously, Liverpool potentially up for sale. Man U, there's heaps of talk about the sale, and then obviously Chelsea being recently bought. Yeah. What's sort of your view around how some of these clubs are, like the position now where the Premier League clubs are so valuable, like they're a ridiculous amount of money, but also the power that some of these owners have. Yeah. Like you see Todd Bowles, it feels like Graham Potter doesn't make a football decision.
No, yeah.
Like he makes on-field decisions, but he doesn't control what he has coming in, what he has going out.
Yeah. And I think when you'd know this very well, when you speak to footballers or anyone that works in these massive football clubs, you realize the amount of people involved in decision making and the amount of times that a player is signed without a manager's approval. The manager's like, okay, you have this player now. Everyone talks about, but even under Roman Abramovich, everyone talks about the fact that Carlo Ancelotti didn't sign Fernando Torres. And it was just like, Abramovich and his staff wanted Torres, and it was like, here you go, you have Torres now, he's going to be at training next week. It's like sometimes that happens where it's not the manager's decision, and I think a lot of that would have happened with Tommy Tuchel at the start of the season.
I feel like that's what's happening now, definitely with Potter,
and I think Potter's getting pushed over a little bit. These players just coming in left, right, and center. But look, unfortunately, like when something's growing exponentially, you can't slow it down. You can't turn it around. Players are only going to get paid more and more and more. The money in football is only going to go higher and higher and higher. How do you stop it? And so at that point, it becomes godlike, and it's like it's probably unhealthy. Yeah. It definitely is unhealthy. Yeah. But how do you stop it? And so these players are worth so much money. You got players that have spent a year in Europe and they're worth 100 million. Enzo Fernandez almost went to Chelsea for a Premier League record after only 6 months being in Europe.
It's ridiculous.
This is what players are worth now. Are they worth that money? Well, if they sell a billion jerseys at $100 each, maybe they are worth that money. I don't know. I don't really know how the figures work, but it's just crazy. So unfortunately, the people that can afford to buy these clubs are not really going to be people from those areas.
No.
So now you got someone that's coming in that's maybe never even lived in that town, and they're buying the football club, which, as you know, football clubs represent the people of the area.
Yeah, which is the biggest issue. Like if the owner doesn't connect with that.
Exactly. And so the best owners are the ones that come in, put their money,
embrace,
enjoy the game, go to the game, enjoy it, hire the right people around. You know, the whole thing with Roman Abramovich, people can love him or hate him. I think he's probably the best club owner ever. I think so. Because yes, he brought in his people, but you look at the amount of retired Chelsea footballers that were hired straight back into Chelsea. Ashley Cole, Michael Lele was in Chelsea for a while, John Terry was in Chelsea for a while, Frank Lampard was in Chelsea, Peter Cech was the goalkeeper coach. They'd retire, he'd hire him straight. Michael Essien was there at one point. So this whole culture felt like Chelsea was a club family within itself. And Roman, of course, is putting the money, and he comes to the game and he sits in his box. But it seemed like he had that separation. Wasn't even allowed in England for a few years. Yeah. And was still running the club and putting the money. Whereas when an owner comes in and wants to do everything, which you saw a lot in the Chinese Super League,
I'm not a fan of it.
They were just buying clubs and picking the starting lineup. It just doesn't work.
Nah, I don't like it, man.
Work,
that's my thing with Chelsea. It just feels like something volatile. Like I think Potter's head's
and I feel
he could be gone.
I don't know. I have nothing to back this up, but just watching as a spectator, I feel as though American owners are too hands-on compared to the, let's say, the Arab owners that come in. I feel like the Qatari, the Saudi Arabian owners, as much as they have a lot of money and they can be erratic,
they're just not as well-run clubs.
I just feel like they buy it. And they put like Newcastle. Look at what Newcastle are doing. It's impressive.
Yeah, seriously.
I feel like the American owners sometimes, we see it in Italy a lot as well. Like they buy a club and they really have this idea of turning it into an Americanized baseball club. You know what I mean? They change a franchise. And it just changes everything. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the American owners. But hey, that's the way it's going.
Well, we'll see who Man you get hopefully soon because I think everyone's craving some new ones. But
we're saying Sir Jim Ratcliffe, which would make sense.
But the thing that bothers me about that is he wanted to buy Chelsea. Like,
he's a Chelsea season ticket holder.
Yeah, and so I'm like, well, he's going to buy us. Like, why? It's like
he's just drives us into the ground.
Yeah, like I want someone that maybe isn't affiliated to a rival, but nonetheless, well, Claude, it's been a pleasure having you on. I do just want to round out with a question that we always do on the show, which there's sort of 3 key traits that I associate to, being successful either as an athlete or in business, whatever it may be, all important together. But if you could just sort of tell us about which one resonates to you and your sort of success and why, that would be great. So resilience, drive, or ambition, which one sort of for you was pivotal to be able to be a talk show host at 26 on Optus Sport, SBS, beIN Sports?
Wow.
Powerful.
Powerful
way to end the show.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, they all are to anyone that's successful. I'll pick, I'm not going to sit here and pick resilience because I think everyone has to be resilient, but there are people in the world which have been far more resilient than me, which haven't been born in the area I'm born in and haven't gone to the school I went to with the parents that I had that supported me and everything. So I'm not going to say resilience. I'd say ambition. I'd say ambition to make a change and to also, in this industry of media, what I found is you can go into a big major corporation as a young starter and you can be an apprentice and you can go in and you can get coffees for years and you can do what they say, or you can stay outside and you can be independent. And in a year, they'll come and offer you this. And you stay outside, independent. Next year, they'll offer you this. You say no again. You stay outside, you stay independent. So I would say ambition because I have an ambition of like where I value myself. And I don't think I think I have so much to work on. That's why I keep working every week. But you value yourself so highly, and until someone gives you that, and they probably never will, but you have this ambition that is your goal. And so you're not going to settle for anything less than that. It doesn't matter if it keeps you up at night, if you got to work weekends, if you got to travel, if you got to pay your own, but this is where you want to be. So I think for me, it's ambition to say, nah, I can do that. And other young people can do that too. And the world is changing and there's nothing to be afraid of. It's something to embrace. So I think I've got this ambition of how media should look in the next 20 years. And so that's what keeps me going.
Beautiful, bro. Yeah. You'll be shaping the media of the game in the country, huh?
I'd love to be just one of the many because there are a lot of other people like me.
Definitely,
I'm definitely not one of a kind. And they just don't have the platform yet. So we're trying to build that platform for everyone.
Beautifully said, man. Well, thank you for coming on the show, man. I'm sure we'll do more collaborations in the future, no doubt, bro.
Definitely.
But appreciate it. Episode 1, guys. We're done. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.